Hello, and welcome to another episode of Andrew's Take. This week, we're going to talk about the world's response, the global response to the US Iran war. So let's start with Europe. President Trump today called the NATO allies cowards, but that's wrong. It's not cowardice, it's contempt. The US president may have a short memory, but the Europeans certainly don't. It was only a few weeks ago when Trump was threatening to take over Greenland. Europeans had to scramble and place a token force there and make serious promises to increase Arctic readiness. It's highly unlikely the US informed Europe of its plans with Israel or included them in their decision making, leaving them to scramble once operations began. Trump wanted their help with keeping the Hormuz Strait open by using minesweepers to escort oil ships through the straits, and they have so far reneged. A clear indication of their contempt and reluctance to cooperate with this administration. Trump alluded to NATO's involvement, which was quickly shut down by the German government. European nations have kept open communications with their Iranian counterparts and may act as a negotiating party in future talks. So, what about China? China has, of course, condemned US actions and has called on all sides to cease fighting and return to negotiations, which is the common line most nations take when they don't want to become too embroiled. The US makes similar statements all the time when they don't want to get too involved. An interesting dynamic is the Iranian oil safely passing by US warships as it heads to China. The US does not want to antagonize China and bring them into a closer partnership with Iran, especially as the US and China gear up for their own discussions. Therefore, the Iranians have this financial lifeline by sending oil to China. So, what about Russia? Russia has, of course, condemned US actions as unjustified and illegal, which there is a case to be made. However, coming from Russia, as it mercilessly prosecutes an illegal war and annexation of its neighbor, Ukraine, is really such a potent hypocrisy. Iran has a strategic partner in Russia and has Russia, Iran has provided Russia with thousands of drones for its war in Ukraine. Ukraine is now providing the Americans with assistance in combating Iranian drones, since they have extensive experience with the model. This is an odd instance of these conflicts intertwining as interests directly converge. What about the African Union? The chairperson called for restraint, urgent de escalation, and sustained dialogue, stressing that all parties must act fully in accordance with international law and the United Nations Charter to safeguard international peace and security. This is a very sort of safe comment to make, sort of like China's, because they again don't want to necessarily get embroiled in the broader politics. They have their own interests to think about. The chairperson did warn that further escalation threatens to worsen global instability with serious implications for energy markets, food security, etc. This is all sort of the safe diplomatic talk that international actors take when they really don't want to get into the weeds of it. So how about South America? Considering the United States' renewed interest in the Western Hemisphere and the administration's willingness to topple unfriendly regimes, most countries have remained quiet or made sort of those neutral statements. Brazil is a noticeable outlier, condemning the US and Israeli attacks on Iran and calling for immediate restraint and respect of international law. Now, let's briefly end with Japan and South Korea, our East Asian allies. The US seems to have asked the Japanese and the South Koreans if they would help open the straits. They also were certainly not consulted beforehand and feel no need to involve themselves in the conflict. And they have no plans to send any naval assets to the Hormuz Strait. So that's where the US-Iran war sits right now in the international community. We will see if there are any further developments in that arena, and we will discuss that as it comes about. Next week, we'll talk about the economy, the world economy. We'll talk about markets. We'll talk about oil and energy and how that's affecting you at the pump, things you're purchasing, and all things like that. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a like if you found this informative, and I'll see you next time.